Hello, my name is Lauren Howard. I'm a business management major with a minor in psychology here at the University of Alabama A&M, and I will be doing my presentation on William Blake. William Blake was born on November 28, 1757, in Soho, London, as the third to 7 children. Raised by James and Catherine Blake, James being a hosier who came to London from Ireland. Only being in school long enough to read and write, he left at the age of 10 to be educated by his mother. Being the sole educator of her son, she noticed that he had impeccable drawing skills, and his talent was so evident that at the age of 10 they decided to enroll him into drawing classes at Henry Parrish Drawing School in Strand, which is where he made explorations in poetry. Going to drawing school seemed to be the step in the right direction for Blake. Getting his first apprenticeship with an engraver named James Bessiere of the Great Queen Street to pay for art school, Bessiere gave Blake tasks such as sketching the tombs of Westminster Abbey, which exposed him to a variety of Gothic styles. These are styles that he would soon inherit and would become inspiration throughout his career. There is no set evidence that these two great artists ever had any differences, but in Peter Ackroyd's biography about William Blake, it is said that Blake listed Bessiere's name to a list of artistic advisors and later crossed it out. Bessiere's style of engraving was seen as old-fashioned at the time, and many feel like Blake felt that it was holding his artistic abilities back. Being an apprentice, he got to experience many different things that helped form his artistic styles and ideas. In 1779, he became a student at the Royal Academy in Old Somerset House. There was no payment to be expected for the school, but he was expected to supply his own materials throughout his 6 years. Blake's perspective for the style of art that he loved began to change when he began studying and admiring some of his school presidents, Joshua Reynolds' work. Reynolds believed that the disposition to abstracts, to generalize and classification is the great glory of human mind. Blake didn't believe this and thought that to generalize was idiotic. In 1982, Blake met Catherine Boucher and would later marry her in August of the same year. Catherine was said to be an illiterate woman, so Blake would eventually teach her how to read and write, and even taught her some engravings as well. She went on to become an honorable aide for her husband while helping him print the illuminated poetry that he is known for today. Blake's first printed work, Poetical Sketches, was made in 1983 and is a collection of apprentice verses and mostly imitating classical models. The poems protest war, tyranny, and King George's III treatment of the American colonies. He published his most popular collection, Songs of Innocence, in 1789 and followed it in 1794 with Songs of Experience. Blake even illustrated the original stories from real life by Mary Wollstonecraft in 1791. They seem to have shared some views on sexual equality and the institution of marriage, but there is no evidence proving that the two ever met. Many other non-traditional poetry and art like these are reasons why Blake Williams is so widely known. He prided himself into stepping out of the box and centering his poetry and art around what was going on in the world at the time, and never held his tongue on what he thought was right or wrong. In 1788, at just the age of 31, Blake experimented with relief etching, which is a method he used to produce most of his books, paintings, pamphlets, and poems. The process is also referred to as illuminated printing, and the finished products as illuminated books or prints. Illuminated painting or printing is required by writing the text of poems on copper plates with pens and brushes, and then using those on acid-resistant mediums. This gave him the means to produce books more quickly than any other way he was taught. After being one of the greatest influences in the engraving, poetry, and painting scenes in the late 1700s, Blake spent his last years at Fulton Court off of Strand. The story of his death tells. Blake worked relentlessly on his Dainty series. Eventually, it is reported he ceased working and turned to his wife, who was in tears by his bedside. Beholding her, William is said to have cried, "Stay, Kate, keep just as you are. I will draw your portrait, for you have ever been an angel to me." Having completed this portrait, which is now said to be lost, Blake laid down his tools and began to sing hymns and verses. At 6 o'clock that evening, after promising his wife that he would be with her always, Blake died. His wife outlived him, paying for his funeral with money she made by selling art and poetry he didn't get a chance to. She eventually passed away as well, just as peacefully as her husband. Here are a list of some of William Blake's great poetry. London, one of Blake's finest poems, is centered around the things that he sees while sightseeing in London. The Sick Rose is a very straightforward poem that meanings remain elusive to many who have even taken the time to read it. The Little Black Boy is a poem I remember reading a lot as a middle schooler, and is the main reason I picked William Blake for this presentation. And is also a passage we had to read in this class. The Garden of Love is this idea of love starting out as a land of liberty and promise, but ending up a world of death and restriction, and is expressed very powerfully through the image of the Garden of Love. And that is all. Thank you.